of us who are not feeling well, we commit you to God and we'll continue praying for you even beyond this session. And with that, I can see now we already have a good quorum. So we will just begin from where we started. And maybe before I project my presentation, I could just have 2-3 people to tell us from yesterday's session, which we did half of the course, what they picked, and maybe anything they went and slept over and thought about it that they want to share with us. Kindly, let's take the 5 minutes to just do a recap. What I carried from yesterday. I went home and thought about it, slept over it, and this is what it dawned on me. Let's hear. Nelly, you can go in first.
Okay, I just pick a talk of the importance of credible communication. And, you know, a lot of times sometimes we don't prepare on what we're going to say or what we're going to deliver. But realize it's important to make it credible and to assess its benefit to those that you're communicating to, how value adding it is to those that you're communicating to, and definitely it means that it's also value adding to you. And just to know your audience, know their needs. So that means like doing a research kind of to get to understand who you're dealing with. The levels of communication based on the levels of of staff. You could be going to the CEOs, you could be going to the board, and you could also be communicating to the lower level. Also important, I guess because I was looking at it based on who is line manager, the importance of building the capacity of line managers, just to know that they come from maybe technical areas, and especially when we upgrade them, we need to know that they're equipped to, to be able to delegate, or to supervise others. Yeah, I think there's a lot.
There's a lot that is very good. That's very good. I can see you're very keen. You learned a lot. There's a lot that we pick along the way. In fact, as you are speaking, also what came to my mind, also, as you know your audience, we have always found ourselves when people appearing before us for the interview, or we are going for these big interviews, and when the introduction of the board members is being done, if actually you do research, as Nelly has said, you'll be able to see the people who are likely to interview me are maybe the board. So if you go to the website and you'll see the composition of the board, you can see Rhoda seated there, you can see Nelly, you can see Njoroge seated there. Of course, you can see some of their profiles. So you can see maybe Nelly is a lawyer. This other one is an accountant. The head of corporate, or the director corporate services seated there, or the CEO is an accountant. This other one is maybe an investigator or a valuer. From that, even by the time you go sit for that interview and they line up to do the interview, you can always predict what line of interviewing these people are likely to probe. So that kind of research and knowing the people you're going to meet even at an interview level will actually really help. You can even be able to know who are the core decision makers, who will I report to, how is the organization structure, how are the other maybe directors in that organization sitting. So it is very helpful. And I think that's an eye-opener, Nelly. Thank you very much. Let's have someone else. We'll just have 3 people just giving us a brief analysis of what they picked. And maybe just to add on some of the things that, Nelly, you've spoken about, we'll also cover today to actually see what is an effective persuasion, what are the do's and the don'ts, and what are the killers of any persuasions. So thank you very much.
Good morning.
Else? Good morning, Beatrice. How are you today?
I'm great, I thank God. For me, in addition to what Nelly has said,
yes,
I would say an effective persuasion is when you know what interests or what appeals to your audience. That is very critical. But again, if you want to be effective in your persuasion, you have to know how to package whatever you're communicating, be it a suggestion, a proposal that you want to give, for example, to the board. You have to know how to package it very well so that it is appealing to them and for you to get their buy-in. And again, when you're persuading your audience, it's about them, it's not about you. So we have to go with an open mind that the audience that you're going to speak to or that you're going to persuade, We need to know their needs. It's not about the person who is going to persuade, it's about the people you're going to persuade. So for me, that was the key. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. In fact, that was very, very instrumental, that at times we write and we want to put our expertise, what we know, what we believe in, but you're not focusing on the person you're writing to. It is actually them who will determine whether they like what you're saying or not. So you try to put yourself in their shoes, and you are writing about them, you are speaking about them, you want to convey a message that will interest them. So how do you create that interest? Thank you very much, Beatrice. Then we can have the last one. Then I read the few chats I'm seeing. Gender balance. I've had two ladies this time round. Let's have a gentleman trying to just do a recap for us, what they picked. We want to embrace diversity. Oh, I can see there are some people who are unable to unmute, so they've put their comments on the chat. So allow me to just read some of the chats that we have. Silas is, sorry, let me just start. So the first comment you're having is from Mercy Masinde. She's saying, good morning. Yesterday's presentation was very powerful in matters of persuasion. I would have wished to contribute, but I'm down with the flu. Sorry, Mercy, we will remember you. Then we have Rose Mbaka. She's saying, good morning. I missed yesterday's session. I was down with the flu, but I hope to catch up today. Sorry for that. You can see, Silas, you're not around. The flu is actually in all the households. Maurice, you said you need to assess the situation and strike a balance, whether to apply persuasion or not. Actually, we said persuasion is not a sure. We said it's not a surefire kind of a communication tactic or a tool. You have to really assess the situation, whether you really want to push with it, or you need to recognize maybe it's time to back off out of it. So we said we can employ different tools, but we cannot say once you have the persuasion, it has to work, because there are other factors that surround even the messages. Maybe the political environment in our organization. Probably before even you start putting your message together, or even writing or even speaking, there are already people who have already taken a position in that board or maybe in that management and say, if it's Rhoda who is doing this, there is no way it's going to pass. There is no way we can approve anything coming from her. They have already made up their mind that whatever you're going to present or try to even package, by the time they're telling you, go and do a board paper, they have already made up their mind. Then someone else says, that is Maurice, Nelly, I would also wish to add the point of unifying opinion and gaining the effective win-win situation. Thank you very much. That Alice is saying communication is all including supportive body language. That is very true. Thank you, Alice, for that. And Terry has said the most striking thing for me was that persuasion has been thought through, not superficial, and therefore must be genuine and have an impact. I think that's all the comments we've had. I hope I have not closed anyone. And so that is good. So that is a good recap for the people who missed, like Rose. At least we'll try to just continue where we stopped, but we'll also keep on revisiting what we learned. And I think with that recap, you can see how we began our topic of persuasion. Of course, we covered half of the topic, but it was basically how to deliver an effective persuasion. And we also saw that persuasion, it is applicable from the very simple things in our houses, in our personal life, to the workplaces, to the boardroom, and we said to the political arena, and we said it is very far-fetching and it is omnipresent. We actually used a word like that we can use persuasion in our everyday dealing, whether we are doing business, we are in our home, we are trying to do. And at this point, because I heard someone say, and we also agreed actually, that at some point, like when you're doing the negotiations with the union and the CBA, we also have to employ persuasion into them so that we bring the other team into the table and maybe into the way of looking at things. And I would pose this question that I reflected on. Is persuasion and negotiations the same? And how are they related? Persuasion versus negotiations. How different are they? How similar are they? And which which tool can we use in the other. Let's differentiate persuasion and negotiation so that we don't confuse the two. Someone can give it a tell. What is persuasion and what is negotiation? Joshua, you want to give it a trial? I can see your mic is on. Karibu sana.
Good morning.
Good morning, Joshua.
Yeah, I'm sorry for coming in, but anyway, as I did inform yesterday, I'm multitasking because I'm already in the office.
That's okay. That's acceptable.
You'll excuse me, but I'm keen listening to the conversation. Okay. Negotiation is where you have set goals that you want to negotiate and come with an acceptable product. But where you persuade, you have a particular direction that you want to incline the person you are persuading to accept. While negotiation may have intended goals, but as you negotiate, yes, you probably have what you need to achieve, but you are much more in another direction because you are proposing to the other party, but you do not know what the other party will be, the contra opinion coming from the other party. But in persuasion, you already have a direction, particularly that you want to convince that person you are talking to move with you in the same direction.
That is great. That is great, Joshua. At least now we understand the two. We are not confusing. We can use persuasion in our negotiations as a way of enticing the other people or changing their point of view or the belief so that they can come and maybe gravitate to the end that you want them to go, maybe in terms of negotiations. So negotiation is more of trade-off. It is more of exchange of maybe goods and values. So you keep on haggling, what we can call haggling. Yes, it's this is the price, this is not the price, come down, come. So there is a lot of negotiation and haggling into it, and there's a lot of trade-off of position to be able to achieve a particular goal or to come to a consensus that maybe Joshua has said, we are trying to negotiate to ensure that we accommodate this cost or we agree on this value for whatever we are a trade-off. So it's a lot of trade-off, haggling, and so that you come up to a more compromised or a more valuable position. Whereas persuasion, we are trying to actually get the attention, the interest, to have to show people there's some benefit into them. So you persuade them in such a way that the way you package your communication, it will talk to their emotional needs and their interest and their personal needs, and they'll say value. So you can say persuasion may not have a price to it, but maybe it could be just a change of ideas, attitude, opinions, or you actually entice people or you change people into change of behavior. So that is the difference between, and I hope it's clear. Maurice, I had seen your hand up. Did you want to add something into it? Maurice? Or was it by mistake? Faith, your hand is up, kindly. Take the floor. Faith, is your hand up intentionally? No, we can't have Faith, but I can see her hand up. But that is basically what I slept on, and I wanted actually to just clarify. Is that clear now that we can proceed from where we stopped? I hope you're together and you can hear me. Let's just have some confirmation.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So
Yes,
yesterday, good. So yesterday we covered what is persuasion, which broadly we have done a recap. We also discussed about how persuasion works. And then we also looked at the role of communication in persuasion, and we also looked at the importance of persuasion, why this topic is very, very key, and those are some of the things we've touched. So today, we will start from where we stopped, and we are going to look at some steps for the persuasion process. And the 4 steps that we are going to look at today, you can see my presentation, just confirm, so that I'm sure we are together.
Yes.
It's okay, you can see it.
Okay, that's great. So the steps that we are going to look, you can remember there's the 6 points that I gave you yesterday, which I said it was just a summary that I had given you, where we said you need to know your audience, you need to get your audience attention, you need to establish credibility, and we went into discussing that. We said you need to tailor your message to the medium of delivery, knowing whether you're going to do it in writing. Is it a presentation you're doing? Is it a verbal communication? And if it's verbal, are you talking to an individual, speaking to an individual one-on-one, or do you have a group of people, which forms your audience? Then we also talked about conveying the benefit for all that you're doing. What is the benefit? What is in it for the person you're communicating to? And also, we also talked about using your body language. So that is a summary that I looked at when I looked at this topic of persuasion. But however, there are many theories to this persuasion. And today we are going to borrow from one of the renowned leadership or the board or strategic author, and he's called J. Alden Kong. I hope maybe some of you has read some of his materials. He has written a lot of materials in terms of the leadership, in terms of, he's actually known to be the persuasion guru. J. Alden Konga, you can look at some of his books, and he has given us 4 steps in terms of the persuasion processes. And maybe for your own reading and maybe reference, some of the books that he has written that you could look for. One of my favorite books for him is, there's a book that he has written that is called Be Flexible. Be Flexible is a very good book. He has also written a book that is called, let me give you some of his materials so that you can look for those materials. The book that is really talking to persuasion is a book called Winning Them Over. He actually winning them over, EM over. And he has said it's a new model for management in this age of persuasion. And he's actually trying to walk us through how management and leadership can embrace persuasion in their dealing and also in their leadership. He has also written a book on boardroom realities. We always talk about when we come to class and when we go for training and we learn. We always say whatever we learn is very good, but when we go back, the reality on the ground is different. Things are different on the ground. We can see that because we can give you this very good tool, but what is the political environment in your workplaces? How is your leadership? How is your management style? Are they likely to embrace the kind of changes or maybe the kind of tactics that you want to use, which most of the time you're looking at it from an engagement point of view as HR, something that is persuasive, something that you can go into the root cause of the issue, but how is your management style in terms of the leadership of the organization? How is your CEO? How is the board? What is their leadership style? What is the political environment? Even the people that you are working with, do you have a say, or their politics? Is maybe the people who are professional or who actually want to do things professionally carry the day, or it depends who is related to who, and these other maybe political groupings that we have. So those are some of the factors. Actually, we'll also look at some of the factors that makes persuasion a challenging tool, and maybe how we can also overcome them. So he has written a book on boardroom realities, and he's talking about building leaders across the board in terms of how to develop them. He has also written another book of the Leaders Change Handbook that you can look at, and Learning to Lead. That is Art of Transformational Managers in the workplaces. So he has, you just Google them and maybe look for the books that you can. They're there in the bookshop. He has written very good books, and he's trying to really be very real on the things that are happening, including at the boardroom, the politics. So he's a leader in matters persuasion, in matters leadership, in matters strategy, and also the board development and the capacity building of the board. So as you grow maybe from management, from supervisory to the leaders, even how you see maybe the leadership style being done at your workplaces, Books are always a very good companion where you can pick a lot of knowledge and you learn from them. So I remember maybe when you take a break, I'll type for you some of the books that you can do so that you can go and look for them. So the 4 steps that Jay has come up with, they are close to what I talked, but he has clustered them into 4. And the first one is what we were discussing: establish credibility and trust in yourself. So the credibility, you have to establish it in yourself before you go out to the people, so that by the time you speak, what is it that you are speaking? Do you have the substance? Do you have the authority? Do you have the credibility? Do you trust yourself by the time you move out? However, he has actually emphasized that establishing credibility is just one of the aspects and the first steps. And according to him, the first 3 minutes or 3 seconds, actually he has said the first 3 seconds of interacting with your audience, they'll have established your credibility. And he actually explained in his book that establishing that credibility, that the credibility that they have established in you as the audience will only give you the opportunity to be heard. Only. That is the farthest he can go, that we have seen this person is credible, is trustworthy, he has content, so they give you the room to be heard. Now they are able to sit back and relax and say, can we listen to what she's saying? Can we listen to what he's about to say? So the only thing that it gives you, it is a doorway. And it just gives you an opportunity to be heard or to be listened. But then what is it that they are going to listen to after that? So it is very temporarily. Again, when you read his book, he has gone and said, this credibility, it is not something that is constant. He has said it is dynamic and it can keep on changing or shifting with time to time. And he gave a very good example, and that is what we were looking at, like we are HR professionals. And I like the way we argue. Remember the discussion we say, the line managers don't have people skills. They don't look at maybe the human, the people part of it. But Daniel was quick to tell us, can you put yourself into the position of strategic business leaders? What does the business need? What can the business sustain? Do we have policies and strategies in place that they have to be observed? So there is that conflict. So what happens to this credibility? The more you stay in an organization or in a specialized role, let's take ourselves, we are HR. How are HR perceived in your organization and also in their senior managers? We are always struggling that we want to have a table at the boardroom. We want to have a table at the C-suite. We want to have a table when you're having the senior management. How many of us can say that the HR director or the HR head is the most influential in the management table or in the boardroom? Let's hear the reaction. And this talks about your credibility. Of course, we have very professional, we are CHRP, we have masters, we have PhD, we have done all the courses, but we have to pick that business acumen. If we really hold on to our narrow specialized line for a long, long time, there is a possibility of people getting used to us. And once they get used to us and they'll start branding ourselves, that is what HR always say. HR fear numbers. HR does that. We have also had comments even in our groups and our teams in senior management. That is marketers. Marketers never think about financials. They fear budgets. Marketers are like this. So we start branding people into camps. That is how accountants are. That's how finance people. So that is erosion of credibility. So he has given us options. So when your credibility, people have gotten used to it, and now it's being eroded, that you may reach a point that when you go and take a paper, people will not take it seriously because it's HR is saying, and you'll hear people saying, what does the legal say? What does the finance say? And they'll give a contrary opinion and your paper goes out of the window. So he has given us option that when our credibility starts going down or waning down, we can employ what you call substitute credibility. And substitute credibility, he has said that for us to be able to get a hearing at the table, for the audience, probably in the senior management, what happens, you can now start substituting your expertise that you have, that you've been known with. Now people are used to you by alternative ambassadors. So you can have what we call a supportive credibility, where you can pick another line manager or people who support your idea and they can speak for you. When you go to the boardroom, you have what we call your sponsors. We call them professional sponsors, that when I speak, I can speak and lobby to another person and they can speak for me, or they can add weight. And probably even before you actually introduce your board paper, someone has said, there's something very interesting we see the HR can do. Or they can even provoke the discussion and say, why don't we have HR doing this board paper for us because of this and this? So these people become your sponsors and they speak on your behalf. So that is how you can substitute credibility. You can see there is a lot of knowledge you can pick on matters persuasion when you go into his books, which may not be in these slides. But that is how he has discussed the issue of establishing credibility and trust in yourself. So you start building supportive groups that even in the senior managers, you have your own blocks of the people who can support your idea, who can rally for you, and who can speak for you when you are maybe at a disadvantaged position. Then the second step, it is find a basis for common ground. We already spoke about that. What are the similarities? When you go and face an audience, is there common ground between the two of you, or they look at you like an alien? Have you experienced what they are going to experience? Have you tried to put in practice what you're trying to train them, or you're assuring them by the time you go to the office, this is the surefire. If it doesn't happen, it is then you. It has to happen, it's 100%. The other step he has talked about is provide vivid proof. When you talk about the vivid proof, it is you have now established your credibility, there is common ground, and then people have your attention, they have their interest, they can see what is the benefit for them. Has it been tested? Do you have any evidence to support your route? Has this been tried somewhere and it has worked? Have you used it and it has worked? Do you have statistical data to support your argument? Have you done the financial and the risk analysis to say, these are the benefits and these are the limitations, so that we are not just going to praise an idea and saying it has 100% benefit. We know every tactic, every tool has the downside. So what you should be trying to push is to give the big benefits of what you're trying to push, and also warn them about the limitations where it could not be. But then drive your persuasion in such a way your benefits outweighs the limitations or the difficulties or the negatives, so that then they can make a decision. I'm sure if you were to sit in this room like you see in his sessions, you can have arguments, or is eating eggs good or bad? I'm sure if we had doctors in this room, some of them can actually justify and persuade us that eating eggs is the most healthy thing to do, because it has high vitamins, it has that, they'll give us statistical data research that has been done. You may have a same specialist medical who will tell you we should avoid eggs like a plague. They'll tell you the cholesterol level in the yolk is very high, it causes colon cancer, it causes the cancer of the prostate cancer, all those arguments. But we all know that we take eggs every day. So at the end of the day, who are you going to listen to? It is that person who is persuasive, who has given you credible evidence and research that is more even reasoned, that he has even said, and he can give numbers, then you can make a decision only. So try to push the positive, the benefits, the way you believe in it, but actually always have that disclaimer that it may not work all. So the benefits actually carries the day or overweights the disadvantages. And then the final steps he's talking about, connecting at an emotional level. When you're talking to your audience, the message you are delivering to them, is it able to talk to their emotions? And he'll say that people in their subconscious mind, they may listen to you, but when they go and sleep over it, it is the emotional part of you that makes the decision before you are rational. Before your rational kicks in to think, the part of your emotional part of you makes the decision, because you start being happy, it's pleasing, it's deep, you can believe in it, I think it will improve me. So you already have taken the 70% to make a decision, this one I'll try. Then the rational mind kicks in, and the rational mostly will be carried on, will be influenced by the emotional part of you. So let's hear that is basically maybe what the 4 slides will talk about. Let's just say, then I can pose for questions. So establishing credibility and trust in yourself. We are saying the first step to persuasion process is to establish credibility and trust in yourself in the mind of the audience. You can do this by using your expertise. Actually, your expertise becomes the primary tool to establishing your credibility. And we say expertise and knowledge is very critical, but it is not sufficient on its own. You can do this by using your expertise and knowledge in the field that you are speaking about, by building and then appealing to the strong relationship that you share with your audience. Be carefully listening to others and their opinions, and by using your history of good judgment to appeal to each person's individual personality. Then on the establishing of common grounds, we say you should find a basis of common ground between you and the other person whom you want to persuade, so that you should find a basis that can be agreed by all the parties by reaching a mutual understanding. First, clear and clarify the benefits that your opinion have to offer, and then look for mutually beneficial solution for you as well as the other party. Once you have found the mutual benefits for both of you, you should clearly state and define the advantages and the benefits of the other party now you're talking to. And in terms of the proof, what does it mean? Having a vivid proof. That these steps involves presenting your audience with vivid and clear proofs to support your statement and opinions. You can use logic and facts to support your statements, using imageries, metaphors to help other people compare and understand your opinion. You can use stories, for example, to help other person associate with your idea and feelings. You may use numbers to prove your statement by presenting spreadsheets to support the statements. And finally, connecting at emotional level, it says these steps involves connecting with other person at an emotional level. You should understand the tangent or aspect to the person's personality. You should show empathy and your respect to their feelings and also their opinion. And you should show your commitment, honesty, and also dedication to what you're giving them. And in order to connect at an emotional level, you should have a high degree of self-awareness so that you can understand your emotions as well as the other people's emotions. That is all about the steps in persuasion process. Any question? Let me pause for a question. Reactions, additions, as well as contrary opinion. I'm seeing some comments on the chat. Rose Muteshi, good morning all. Pleasure to welcome you all so that we can continue learning together. Please, yesterday we said that persuasion is the art of unifying people so that we can come up with a win-win situation or a way of convincing people across your side. It is me, Rose Muteshi. Thanks, and once again, welcome. Maurice, also on credibility, your past behavior tested, your conduct values will be under scrutiny. That is clear. Rose again came back and said, just a recap, please, to those who are not with us yesterday, thank you. Polycarp, karibu sana, good morning, Madam Rhoda. Following will, however, be unavailable to speak. Multitasking, it's not the easiest skill. You may consider having a training on it. Multitasking, that's a good proposal. So let me hear, is the process clear? Are you able now to associate it to the 6 that I had given you yesterday? I see there is no conflict with them. It is just now from the J. Alden, how he has packed them, how he has actually clustered the 4 steps that he has.
Thanks, Rhoda. Good morning.
Good morning, Maurice.
I tell you, on my phone, I had challenges. The mute and the unmute button had disappeared, but it's now there. So I'm happy.
Great.
So I just want to comment on the last one, connect at an emotional level. I think that is critical in persuasion. If you can be in a position to connect at an emotional level with your audience, that would be great. In practice, I've seen salespeople, the insurance people playing this well. You know, insurance, how they play it with your emotions. It's so fascinating. For an example, if it is about you having cover, be it medical cover, they will share with you all the risks which to an extent you will face if you don't take that cover. I tell you, before you know it, you'll be persuaded and sign a deal with them. So that's one example that I've seen at play.
They'll also come back and tell you about the uncertainty of this employment, and your kids are still young, and why you need to buy an education investment so that by the time they go to college or high school, you have a safety net, which they do very well, and that's why they are able to get a lot of sales. Any other reaction? Thank you very much, Maurice, for that, and welcome. We're happy to have you back. Frida, she's saying, good morning, listening on the training. In the village, the network keeps on dropping, but so far the training has been very insightful. That's very good. Anyone else? Ivy, welcome. And she's saying, thank you for the practical examples. So let's continue with that discussion. I think the process is clear. And I think we had touched it. My hand is up. Kinyanjui, please take the floor. Sorry for that. I didn't see.
I think I'm on webinar mode. So I think I'm also limited in what I can see and cannot see.
Okay. Karibu sana. Let's hear it from you.
Yeah, and thank you for the, I know yesterday we had to go through it, and today it's a bit clear in terms of the steps of the persuasion processes. I like that you always ask for contrary opinions.
Yes.
So mine is on the step number 3 and step number 4, because you've outlined it in terms of providing vivid proof and then connecting at an emotional level, which is quite good. But then what I'm trying to reconcile is on the vivid proof, you're saying we use logic and all, but then you're also telling us to connect at an emotional level. Is it that a contradiction? Because from what I understand, from connecting at an emotional level, in terms of also what you use, because if you use logic to persuade and you want to connect at an emotional level, you're connecting cognitively instead of emotionally when you use logic to persuade. So I'm trying to reconcile that and the connection.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who'd want to assist Kinyanjui? He said we have mentioned about using logic. What is your understanding of logic to you, Kinyanjui?
When you use logic, you're persuading the mind. It's more of cognitive and reasoning and all. But if you look at, and exactly what I think it's Mandere has said, the insurers use, they appeal to the emotions. They don't tell you the figures about, the millions. They connect at an emotional level of telling you, you will die, or if in case you die and your dependents, what will happen. So they're connecting at an emotional level. But then I'm trying to reconcile the vivid proof where you're saying we use logic, which is quite good when it's a board paper, for example. But if it's a conversational encounter and you want to persuade.
I think I like the example that you have picked from the insurance perspective. Before they tell you that you may die and your employment may go, they'll have also shown you the projection that if you're able to save only 2,500%, this amount will compound, and by the time of the 8th year, 5th year you are withdrawing, it will have grown to this figure. And when you look at that figure, for sure, you can see this will be enough to take my child to Form 1 or to high school. Because actually, if they didn't show you that growth and the compound interest in terms of how the money will grow, you will not buy. Because imagine they're telling you, you'll put 2,000, 2,500, and by the time you're going to the 8th year, you only have 20,000. Would you buy that cover? So they combine both the logic and the facts. And that is why they always come with projection. If you save 2,500 per month, if you save 5,000, this is the different options they'll have. And you see, this money will be enough to cover for you whether you have a job or not. So it's a combination of the two. Again, if you don't use any logic and facts, you will sound so theoretical, you'll not have practical. And we have said we can combine. Actually, logic and facts and statistics is only one aspect of the many. I'll give you an example. If I was to do a board paper for what I gave yesterday for non-smoking policy to push through, what do you think what do you think I'll put into that paper in terms of my justification? I'll have logic, facts, and statistics that will actually show people and actually speak to their emotional sense. And I'll say that we are losing maybe 100 man-hours in a week for people who are smokers, less than the people who are not smoking. Or I'll try to portray the number of illnesses or the lung infections or the death that we are having, probably in the workplaces because of the smoking all in the country, and we cannot afford to be losing this kind of workforce. So by the time you are going even to the emotions, you are actually showing them the picture of how many people are going to die because of this or are being infected by that. So you combine both. There's no way, some discussions are better shown statistically or with logic, or how many people have used this, or how many people have the logic. Like I'll give an example of like the people who discovered the minivan. Do you know we had 2 people from General Motors, but they didn't have a way of packaging the information and how they discovered the minivan, and they were not able to push that idea to an acceptable level. Then Chrysler came in and they packaged it and stole it and moved it with it. That is also what Steve Jobs did. Actually, he was not the first person to discover about personal computers. There were 2 people and 2 teams from Xerox, but they were unable to push their idea to package it in a persuasive way that they were believable. But then someone like Steve Jobs came and repackaged it and was able to persuade and launch it to the market. And he became like the person who founded it. That is what we talked about. It is how a lot of us has very brilliant ideas. We can see this is not working. But when we go to push that idea, we are not persuasive, we are not convincing, and people don't believe in us, and it's just evaporate like that. But someone will come and steal our idea, go repackage it, persuade people, and they look like they're the people launching it. That is my take. I don't know whether I've persuaded you. Josh, no, not Josh. I don't know whether I've managed to persuade you or not. That is for you as the audience.
What you planted in my head is about versatility, just being able to balance and know, whether to lean in on logic or emotions and knowing. And I think that's why we're here, just to develop that versatility of being able to use both and balance. So yes, convinced, yes. Persuaded.
Yes. And then you see, the other thing that I actually learned when I was thinking about it yesterday, someone asked a question, what if it's a normal everyday conversation? And actually what you have done, Kinuthia, it is the way you just pop up and meet with your CEO on the corridor and you ask your question and someone said you go back to your cocoon or to your default setting. So when you're trying to persuade, you should always anticipate the killer question. And you see the way he even started. I like the way you always ask for contrary opinion. Probably I'm trying to build my muscle on that when you get in any audience, a lot of people will be moved by your conversation. But there are those 1-2 people, the popcorns who will pop up and they will throw the killer question. What are those killer questions trying to do? It is actually to throw you off the balance. Of course, I can say that I've persuaded you. That is why I've made it fun that I don't know. Probably you have the right to say you have not persuaded me still, and that is your opinion. Probably someone in the audience who can persuade him better than I have. It is something that we are practicing, and we say that is why we are here. Nelly is saying very persuading indeed. So I've been able to persuade Nelly. Kinuthia, whether I've persuaded, I think you have admitted I've persuaded you. Rose has said, hello, Rhoda. It is right if I say that the persuasion, the parties concerned must also tell the truth as concerns their problem being persuaded, so as to enable the persuader exactly know what is really the problem. My thinking, please advise. That's okay. So you remember again, one of the attributes that we talked about persuasion, we said we don't have to wear a disguise. We have to be authentic. Whether we persuade or not, if we say we have not persuaded, it is okay, because it is him that I'm dealing with. It is not about me. That is the opinion. But that's a very good discussion. I like it. So let's proceed. I can see any comments. Anybody that I'm closing down before we move to the role of communication in persuasion? Any person? If your hand is up, kindly just unmute and speak to us. I think we are good. I can see any hand up, so that means concurrence. Let's move on. So the role of communication in persuasion, you remember we tried to discuss what is the relationship between communication and persuasion. And we actually said persuasion is one of the key elements of success in any dealing that we do. But what about communication? Because when you're doing persuasion, it's either we are verbally communicating, we are communicating in writing, or with our body language. So it's all about communication. So what it tells us, if we have effective communication, then we can be able to persuade people. And as HR professionals, knowing how to communicate, it is very fundamental and essential. However, the golden key is, are you able to communicate effectively to a level that you can persuade? That is the deal breaker, and that's the difference. So we are saying effective communication is important to persuade people because of the following. It is about how information is sent and received between people. Communication is basically how the information moves from me and it's received by my audience, whether one individual or a group. So how it moves, how it is sent by the way I project it, and how it is received by the audience. Again, we're saying it's crucial for working successful with people, because if you're a good communicator, you can be able to communicate and the message is able to be delivered effectively, then there is likely to be successful even in your interaction. Then we are saying it also enables maintain relationships. And in this, I can say good relationship or conducive relationship, because if actually there is a communication breakdown, we always see conflicts arising in the workplace or in any relations, being a family, being a spousal relationship, any relationship that you have, whether between your friends, your family members. When there is breakdown in communication, then we have strained relationship. Then it allows to accomplish tasks while working with both the individual and also as a group. Because when you are able to relay information and communicate effectively, then whatever you are doing, it's likely to move. You are likely to experience performance. You are likely to experience good goals achievement. And that is at an individual level and also as a group. You can see even in your departmental discussions, if there is good communication and teamwork and synergy within your department, the HR department, within the team, then there is likely to be good working relationship and performance and accomplishment of departmental goal. Where there is open communication between departments, I know we always have these challenges of departmental silos, where some departments feel more superior than the other departments. Some departments feel they are the decision makers, they are the target achievers than any other, and they feel they are much better. So if we have the departmental silos, or we are not able to, or the what we call the sibling rivalry within the departments, then of course even the achievement of the strategic goal and the objectives are also affected. Then we say good communication motivates. You feel motivated when you're able to have that communication breakthrough, or when someone is able to persuade and you have a win-win situation. Again, it helps to overcome obstacles. We said when you are unable to persuade, when there is a breakdown in communication, there are a lot of limitations, a lot of obstacles, a lot of failures, a lot of negativity, hostility. There is no good environment. So those obstacles become a hindering block. And finally, we say it creates a comfortable, trustful, psychologically safe feeling. Especially when you have a board paper that you have really been thinking about, how do you feel when you see it is approved? Whether it's a policy document that you have really worked on, have gone through the management, various sessions, that day that you feel it is approved, you can even go home. Let's say a board meeting is ending at about 2. You feel like you have achieved for the whole year end, whether you go home at that point you feel achieved, you feel comfortable, you feel trustful. Even by the time you meet with those board of directors on the corridors, you'll feel, I did something wonderful. We have achieved, even as a team. When you come to the performance appraisals, the balance scorecards, or maybe the contract performance, how do you feel when you see the HR department is among the high ranking? When you look at the PC and you look at the percentage of your performance and you're among the top 3, you feel nice because of that. And you can see we pulled this as a team. You can imagine those conversations you have with your team members, that you didn't do it alone. It is because of the pulled and the communication you had. That's the big feeling that you have. So that's the role of communication. Then in the next 2 slides, we are going to look at the do's and the don'ts for communication, for persuasion. What are the things that we should do? And you should kindly listen to this, that we might want to really persuade people, but how we do it may work against us. You may have done a very good write-up, but your delivery or the do's make it an effective communications. So we look at the do's and the don'ts of the communication. And I always say, it is not what you're about to say. It is not what you are saying. What is more important is also how you deliver it. How do you say it? How does it reach the other person? How is it received? So some of the do's, the beautiful parts of the communication that we do is what I call the constructive communication. So how do you know that you're doing a constructive communication? These are some of the indicators. A constructive communication should be a validation of each other. That when you're discussing, you're trying to understand the other point of view and you're validating them. You can remember our discussion of Gerard and Frank. You validate their point of view. You validate their feelings. You validate their concern. They are actually genuine concern. At some point, Frank said, it is a shame. So you feel validated, you feel respected, and you are able now to align with them and see, he understands me. So a good communication is the one that validates each other, both the speaker and the audience. Then it also calls for sensitive listening. As the one who is speaking or persuading, are you listening sensitively? Are you getting the cues of what is being communicated? Are you showing empathy? Are you sensitive what is being said? Then dual perspective. Dual perspective means you are looking at the both sides. What I'm saying and I'm trying to convince, but I'm also seeing where you're coming from. I'm trying to wear your shoes. So there's that dual perspective. And I also mentioned that there's nothing that is 100% surefire. There is also aspects of challenges that discuss, connect, and contrary opinion, and where even your tactics have failed. Then you recognize other people's concern. Each other's concerns, listen to them. There is also the aspect of seeking clarification, where it is not clear. It is always good to seek clarification, maybe by rephrasing the question, posing a question. Did you mean this? Did I get your question right? Is this what you meant? Then infrequent interruption, where you have a lot of interruption. Before someone finishes speaking, you have already interrupted, then that's likely to affect. Then focus on specific issues. What is the issue under concern? What is it that you're speaking about? You should be able to focus your scope around that issue. Then compromises and contract. Are you able to compromise your position to try to accommodate the other person? And then useful meta communication and use of data. Then summarizing the concern for both parties so that by the end of the day, this is what you have carried home and this is what you're discussing. Then we have the don'ts of the communication for persuasion. And you can see I've even put it in black because these are the aspects that are destructive to communication. And some of the destructive communication we have is disconfirmation of each other. That someone is trying to say this, but the other one is quickly to judge and disconfirm and shift the position and totally disagree. When an audience raises this question, you want to disrupt it and maybe say, negate it and not even feel them. So disconfirmation of each other, it is actually something that affects someone's self-esteem. when someone discredit what you are saying or just write you off from the first phase. Then poor listening. When you are not able to listen carefully, we should be listening not to respond, but to really understand and actually feel what the other person is saying. Then preoccupation with self. It is all about me, me, me. It's me who came to speak to you. I'm the one who is facilitating. It is about me. So maybe you might preoccupy yourself, how you look, how you show yourself, how you dress, how you walk, how you are pacing, and probably you're not even listening to how people are reacting to all that. You find like even when you go to this discussion, even the perfume you have used, the way you have dressed, it is more distractive than even people giving you attention. Then complaining, where you'll find some audiences or even the person who is presenting, they're complaining about everything. They're full with negativity. Then there's also what we call the hostile mind reading, that I already know what Nelly is about to say. That when I see Polycarp's hand, I know he's giving a contrary opinion. So already before you speak, I already have a hostile mind reading. That can also happen from the audience, where I say, depending with the political environment we have in our organization, there are people before you package your information, they're already hostile in their mind, and they can read what you want to tell them before you have even spoken. Then frequent interruption, it's self-explanatory, and everything is thrown in. So you have a conversation that is so jumbled up, you can't even understand which topic you are discussing, where you are discussing, so it's all scattered because you're trying to throw everything that you know into that discussion. Then counter proposals, that this is the proposal that I want to give, but I want to still give you like 10 options. Again, what J. Alden has said, it depends why you have to learn your audience. If you have an audience that is enlightened, you have an audience that has so much and they are maybe experts in the same field that you are sharing, the best thing to do is to give the dual perspective so that you are able to incorporate everybody. However, if you're dealing with an illiterate, for lack of a better word, a less informed audience, some of the tactics you should don't give them a lot of perspective or dual, because their understanding level, it is very low. So when you try to give them a lot of dual perspective or maybe multiple of perspectives, you are likely to confuse them more than you're trying to tell them. So they'll tell you, Rhoda, at the end of the day, you have given us 5 options. Which one do you think is the best? But you can't leave them knowing what it is upon maybe the environment you are. Be practical, be reasonable, look at the context of the application and apply the best method. They'll be more confused. So counter proposals, so you should be knowing what to give in terms of the proposals and what. Again, it also can come from the audience, like when you're talking about negotiations, you're giving this perspective, then there are many counter proposals versus counter proposal. You say this, I respond. You say this, then it's likely to give a lot of confusion. So you are able to concentrate on maybe a limited scope. Then excessive meta communication. When you give excessive information or excessive data, then you're likely to confuse or even complicate your discussion more than what you had. Then self-summarizing, where you don't go into the details of explaining, you just summarize and you think people that you understood. So that is all for that. Let's have some comments and questions. I can see some comments on the chat. Kinyanjui, please repeat the point of meta communication. Then Beatrice, please expound on meta communication. What is meta communication? Let's hear from us. What is meta communication? Could someone try to expound on that? What is your understanding about meta communication? Mm-hmm. Am I alone? Let's hear from people. Meta communication? Is it using the metadata? Or what is meta communication? Guys, you're too silent. What is meta communication?
Maybe we don't know if we can know what is the meaning of the word meta, because then it is one being used to describe the communication. Me, I don't know what meta means. Is it a big data or a little data? Thank you.
For me, I looked at it from the big data and big information that is likely to confuse people. Any other person? What is your understanding?
Maybe I can liken it to meta thinking, where they talk about thinking. So I think why we wanted you to expound on this is we're confused about that meta.
The meta.
So because for meta thinking is thinking about thinking. So if you use meta communication, is communicating about communication. So that confusion perhaps.
For me, from the perspective I picked about the meta communication is when you give too much information or data, you may end up confusing the people, because when you give so much communication, it is even likely to give a contradicting message of the same information. That you said, you use this data to say this, is it not the opposite of what you are saying? So that message becomes more confusing. So you should be able to restrict yourself to the context and only what is necessary to that topic.
Excuse me,
is it more clear?
Rhoda?
Yes.
So if I get you correctly, you mean that you are detailed in your communication, you're giving the necessary details, but you're not being too detailed. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Don't be
giving more details than is necessary.
Yes, because it might end up confusing people, and you might end up contradicting the same message that you are saying. That is in the perspective that I was communicating. Anybody else maybe who have interacted with the meta communication could tell us? Kinyanjui, let's hear. What came to your mind? Of course, Alice spoke. What came to your mind when I mentioned meta communication?
That's why I actually asked for further elaboration, because I was trying to reconcile it to what it is.
That is my understanding, but I can say we are also not so right. Let's see. Let's try if we can see even what maybe that meaning, if it has a contrary. Meta communication introduces the point out of focus, communicate how you use sources and theory, indicate who is speaking, makes transition, mention the function and status. That's not clear. Another definition is it's a broad term that is used to describe all the factors that influence how a message is perceived or interpreted. I think it's close to what I meant. Meta communication is about communicating something about the communication itself. Let's pick it up from the concept I had put it there, that you just give the relevant information that is relevant for that. Don't be too detailed that you end up, the message that you are sending, you end up contradicting the same information. Is that agreeable? We can pick that for our understanding. It is a communication about communication. That's Joseph. I think Beatrice had also said that. That is how I'll pick it up. So we can proceed?
Yes.
Okay. There's something, yes, okay, we can move on, that's okay. Then let's move to the next. We're just going to expound about verbal techniques for effective persuasion. How do we communicate verbally? And the first thing that we'll say is sometimes the way you speak to one individual, it is different from speaking to a group of people or a big audience. When I meet Beatrice and I'm conversing with her, probably on the road, on the corridor, or the example that we had, that you've met with a board of director, we have met with a CEO and he asks you about this. How you speak to them, it is more of a conversation. And I want us to take persuasion, not more like you are pitching, that it appears so technical, but let's take persuasion as a conversation. I always tell people when I coach people how you go for interview, never think that you're being put on the limelight by the people who are interviewing you. For me, I take it like a conversation. It is you, the organization is trying to gauge you whether you're a good fit for them. You're also trying to gauge the organization whether this is a place I would want to work. How is the environment? How is the culture? How is the management style? How is the leadership? How are the policies? It doesn't mean that every time I pass an interview, I have to work for that. So it is a two-way conversation. Just the way I'll meet with you in a marketplace and you say, hi, Rhoda, where did I meet you? Probably we are meeting at a maybe airport, we are transiting, and we are just having a conversation. So how you meet me with maybe my spouse, how is your spouse? How is your son? All that. It is just a conversation. Then, as we are having a conversation, you're trying to probe what interests her. What does she like? Where does she want to go for a vacation? What else is she doing? You'll ask, how is your consultant faring on? Then before that, I'll start speaking. So you end up probing that. So even when you meet with this person who may be your senior, it is a one-on-one conversation. That is why they didn't summon you to a boardroom or to their office. It was just coincidence that you met on the corridor and he decided to probe this question. But what is the level of discussion? So sometimes we may be required to speak to an audience. The norm of persuading an audience is slightly different from when you are one-on-one speaking to an individual. That is very clear, and we clarified on that. Then we said, effectively engaging an audience is dependent on the speaker's ability to sound interesting and to convey a positive attitude. So what is your demeanor? How are you presenting yourself? Are you eliciting that interest? It is the ability of that speaker or the person who is trying to persuade. And again, we say developing good speaking skills involves increased awareness of your voice, the language that you're using, the body language, the tone when you're speaking. That's all about persuasion. Take it more to be a more conversation than a pitch. Because when you come to pitch, it looks like you need a lot of technical know-how, a lot of preparation. Of course, there's times that you have to pitch. When you're doing boardroom presentation, the level of preparedness is much more and deeper and more detailed, and the justification with the audience in mind. But then there is everyday persuasion that we do, even when you're telling someone, kindly pass for me this. That is an ordinary conversation, which incorporates also persuasions. I can see some comments. Joseph, you're just agreeing. And Rose, you're saying it is use of bulk data when it is not yet clear to me. What is it not yet clear to me, please? Rose, you're still on the meta communication. Rose, let's hear from Rose. I think she's still having hang-ups on the meta communication. Or maybe that was an earlier communication. Yes, Rose.
Hello.
Yes.
After your explanation,
yes, you got more confused.
Please, but at first I could not even imagine what it is.
Oh, but now you have followed.
Now I have followed. Yes, I've read through the script that you have displayed.
Okay, that's
yes,
good.
Please, now have followed, please. Thank you, Rhoda.
Okay, so let's look at Karibu Sana. Some of the verbal techniques, this is very easy for anybody who has gone to any communication class, so I'll not dwell so much. It's about the 4 dimensions of verbal techniques that we normally use. It's the voice. How is your voice? Are you able to be heard? Can you speak loudly that your audience can clearly hear you? And not too loud that you're even scaring them, or you are distractive. Rose, are you able to mute kindly? We are having some background noise.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, kindly. So the voice. So the attributes that we look in the voice is how you project. How do you speak in terms of the pace? Are you too fast that people can't follow you? Or are you too slow that you are so boring that people start just sleeping in class? You are drolling. That is what about the voice. What about the language? What do we look at the language? The language, we look at issues like you avoid using technical jargons. We all understand how our learned friends speak. And sometimes we ask, can they just use simple English? Why do they have to use a lot of Latin? They have to use big jargons and words that we can hardly follow them. So even when we are doing sorry, there's someone whose mic is still on and we're having some background noise. Let me see who we can mute so that we don't have that interruption. I'm not able to see. Kindly check your mic, then you can unmute. I'm hearing some background noise. Rose, kindly mute. Let me try to mute her. I think I've also done that. I've muted. So when you talk about language, we avoid using big technical words and jargon that cannot. You can see just a word like meta communication, how it has brought us problem. What if we had a lot of that jargon that people are not able to follow? So they're not able to follow the message. Then when you talk about the body language, especially when you are having, of course, now things have changed. Now we have virtual training. But when you're having a classroom kind of a training or one-to-one conversation, what is your posture? Are you able to give an eye contact to your audience? Are you able to look at the people? Because actually when you project eye contact, what you project, you project trust, that what you're saying you believe in. There's that authority that comes with it. Or are you speaking to people, even when you meet your CEO on the corridor, you're drawing things on the floor? Or when you're speaking to him, you are actually looking across the room to see what the other people are doing. So the body language, how you stand, if you're sitting, are you able to stand, to walk around the room so that you can be able to reach all your audiences? The use of gestures to emphasize your point, to lay emphasis to what you are saying, is what you talk about, the body language. Again, whether you're seated or standing, how do you put your arms or maybe your legs? Are you the people who talk when they have crossed their arms like this? And what that tells people or portrays to people is keep distance. I'm not approachable. You don't come out as so friendly. So you want to look warm, approachable, you can engage, and then you use a lot of body language. Actually, this works very well when you're having a one-on-one or classroom. Then your tone, your humor. Are you able to regulate your tone that at times, if you really want to emphasize a point, probably you change your tone, you slow down, you incorporate some humors like the analogy. You can imagine the kind of warmth that was brought by the analogy yesterday we used of ugali, when someone said, whether you're in darkness, when you master and you practice and you learn, it becomes part of you, that whether we have blackout or not, there is no time that you'll be eating and you put your ugali in your ears. So those kind of discussions actually really help in your conversation. So that is just to look at them in details, which are, unless we want to really emphasize a point, it is just what we have explained: projection, pace, and modulation. We say projection is the volume of your voice should be loud enough to everyone can hear you. At the beginning of the session, ask the audience if they can hear you, adjust your volume accordingly so that you are able. Modulation is how you play around with maybe pauses, you slow down, maybe you speak fast so that you're not so boring and people are able to give you the attention. Language, we have explained. Body language, I think I've explained all that. Smile and laugh, relax, walk around, keep your audience attention, stand up, maybe to get your audience's attention. Use of gestures to emphasize your point and develop the eye contacts. Use of humor. You can see that audience, the way they're happy. If you're able to incorporate that, I know not all of us are humorous or they're funny, but even from the audience themselves, they're able to generate that. And maybe you could even trigger such discussions and such humors and to just post and have fun and discuss rather than being just so serious about it. Any questions so far? Comments? Let me hear from you before we move. This will make our Q&A at the end very easy. if we pick them as we go.
Hi, Rhoda.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I think one thing is that when we are having communication, we must first understand the psychosocial status of the person we are communicating with. And once we understand that, then we are able to deliver our communication. People have different psychosocial status, and actually approach on the other person may not be uniform to the other person.
Yes.
So once we understand our audience, then we're just able to make it through. As long as we know what we want to deliver, the content, and taking from what we have learned since yesterday, especially understanding we must have done our research in what we deliver, and probably we have an expectation on how it will be received, knowing that we already know people that we are going to communicate with, and probably an expected outcome, which may be the same or different. But as I did advise that we also have to carry along our emotional intelligence to deal with whatever situation we come across.
I like that, Joshua. Thank you very much. We must be able to understand the psychosocial issues of the audience and the people we are speaking with. As much as you are saying we should be able to project our voice and be loud, have you interacted with the people who don't like loud people? Even including our children. They'll keep on saying you're speaking too loud. And maybe if you approach them with a lot of confidence and authority, they lock. Do we have such stuff? The people that you have interacted, that they just want you to walk in, start slowly, break the ice, probably even sit there and not comment, then you start commenting, depending also the emotional stage they are in and what is happening. Like when you're going to actually condole with someone who is grieving, would you just go jump in and start speaking? Or you just first sit and just feel them? Then you look until they're comfortable, then you can start speaking? Because that's also is also part of persuasion. That's a very good point, Joshua. And thank you very much for adding that. Any other comments? I can see a hand up. This is Okech. Okech, can you tell us something? I can see your hand is up, Okech. Okech, is your hand up? His hand keep on going up, but he's not able to unmute. Can we hear him? Ivy, tell us something if you're able to unmute, kindly. We want to hear different opinion. We said we are all here. Maybe some points that you may have learned in communication that we have not incorporated. We said we are all here to learn from each other. Any other comment? Okay, his hand is still up, but I'll lower it for him. So that means we are clear, so we can proceed. And maybe we just look at some of the tips for effective communications for persuasion. And we have about 9 tips here that we're going to go through. We'll start from the bottom. And the first tip that we talk about is we should be able to focus on the overall communication system. Not just focus on the message, but the entire system on communication, how the information is packaged, how it's going to leave you, how it's going to be received by the recipient, how it's going to be communicated, whether in writing or verbally, and what are the do's and the research. So you should be able to focus on the communication system as an overall. Number 2, you should be able to manage time during discussions effectively so that you don't run out of time or you then don't end up maybe rushing or not actually giving all the details. So both people should be able to be psychologically present and not rushed in the discussion. Again, you should be ready to be flexible because you may go say, I'll speak for 2 minutes. This is what I have to say. By the time you meet your audience, then there is a change of the entire plan. So we should always be flexible and give some room for any eventuality that may come. Then use bracketing or the scope to keep the discussion focused so that you don't end up having discussions that are totally time stealers, and they are totally unrelated and out of scope. So even as you're having the discussions and the exchanges, keep it focused to the scope of the discussion. Then the other thing you should have, we should aim for a win-win discussion at the end of the day. This we cannot re-emphasize. And then we said you should be able to honor yourself or respect yourself. You should be able to honor your audience in terms of the time, how they are feeling, and the things they need, and also honor relationship, that beyond this discussion, beyond this persuasion and encounter, there is still going to be a healthy relationship and a future relationship with your audience and the people you are discussing with. Then we should be able to grant forgiveness or put aside our own needs if possible. This happens like there are always unforeseen things that will happen for any persuasion, any discussion, any communication. Probably, of course, we say it is bad manners for you to show up in a meeting, especially when you are the one doing the presentation late for the meeting. Of course, there may be incidences where even your audience is late for a meeting and you start on a very low note. Probably something has happened that was unexpected. We should be able to grant forgiveness to have a healthy discussion, and we should be able to put aside our personal needs as far as they are practical, if, of course, they say if possible. And finally, we should be able to demonstrate and show grace when appropriate. Don't be the one who wants to win in every discussion. You have to carry the day. We don't want to have a loser and a winner kind of a situation. So those are the tips that we would have. Then, in terms of delivery, how do you deliver the persuasion pitch? If now it is maybe a verbal communication, I said we take it as a conversation. It could also be a pitch when you're doing a presentation. So we are going to look at it in two ways. There are two folds or two outcomes to this, that when you are packaging your persuasion, you can be able to yield a very effective and positive delivery of your message. On the other side, depending with how you do it, you can yield or you can have an outcome or an effective or negative delivery. So for us, and the purpose of this discussion, our ultimate goal is to have an effective and a positive delivery of a persuasion or any communication. And we'll start by looking on how we deliver a positive persuasion. So some of the things that actually portray an effective or positive delivery in a persuasion are things like you need to be supportive. The persuasion need to be taken in a supportive environment where it's delivered in a non-threatening or a supportive or encouraging manner. So for any persuasion you're doing, don't start by threatening people. Using threats, you should always be supportive, endearing, and not threatening, and in an encouraging manner that is more building than destroying. Then whatever you're delivering, it should be helpful. There must be a value add to the person that you are speaking to or you're trying to persuade. We said you must deliver value. What is the value addition to them? Then in terms of being descriptive, we say it should focus on the behavior that can be changed. Of course, you have to analyze your cost and the benefits and the possibility before you go to the persuasion. Of course, we know there are things that are achievable and there are things that are not achievable. So when you go to it, you should be descriptive in such a way that you only focus on those behaviors that you desire to be changed, and you know in reality or practically they can be changed. Then you need to be sensitive. It means that you take into consideration the other person's sensitive or their needs. Joshua has talked about the psychosocial issues of the person. So we need to be really sensitive. Again, we need to be considerate that we are not going in to insult or to demean or deconfirm someone. We must be as considerate as possible. Then our persuasion should be direct. It should be focused, and we should say what we mean and communicate what we mean. I'm sure when we are giving, we are in our management, this is something that has really been blamed on management when you're giving feedback. Or even at our home, when we keep on giving indirect messages that I'm not happy with the team, what is it that you're not happy with? And who are you not happy with? We need to be specific and direct in our feedback, in our communication, and also in our persuasion. When we become so vague and indirect, then that becomes ineffective. Then the timing is also very critical. We should have healthy timing. We should not be able to gauge, is this a good point for me to push this board paper? Do we have the budget? Are people in a good state of mind to even listen? And because the timing is very key, you might be trying to deliver a message at the wrong timing, then it backfires on you because people are not psychologically ready or physically ready to handle what you're trying to deliver. Then your persuasion must be very well thought out. It must be persuasive, and it should not be just impulsive, that you have come across this and then you just want to say it on top of your mind, yet you've not done research, you have not thought about it. Then it must be specific, where we say persuasive pitch is focused on specific behavior and event. You must be direct and specific in terms of what you want achieved. Is that clear? Then we look at the negative delivery part of it, which we don't wish for anyone to go into persuasion and you yield a negative or ineffective results. And these are some of the things or some of the indicators that actually show you that you're not likely to have an effective persuasion. The first thing is the opposite of what we did. We said we need to be direct, and direct maybe to the person we are dealing with, the issue we are talking about, direct about the behavior and the attitude that we need changed. But if your ideas or your point is indirect, it is not addressed directly to anybody or to any part, it becomes vague because it's just a general comments that you are putting. Then it should not be general. General persuasion aims at broad issues that cannot be defined or even cannot be touched. You're not able to limit to a particular scope. It's just general and addressing nothing. Insensitive, it's opposite of what we said. Our persuasion or our communication should not be attacking to an individual, because attacking someone's message or an individual, it's actually equivalent to attacking their emotions. So attacking that is aggressive and focusing on weaknesses of the other person, it's likely to backfire on you. When we become disrespectful of the other person, it is almost insulting. That's what you're saying. Then poor timing, I think I elaborated on that. And we say it should be given at the best optimum time. Impulsive is something that you have not thought about. It is something that you just give, like it's impulsive buying. The way we go to a supermarket, we see something on the display and you have not budgeted for it, you want to. So again, an idea pop up, you have not thought about it, you have not weighed how it's going to be received, so it becomes impulsive and you're not likely to be regarded as serious. Then being judgmental, that before someone speaks, you're already judging them. So it becomes like judging the personality rather than it says judgmental persuasion pitch is prejudice and judges personality rather than the behavior. You're looking at the person as the person. It is rather, it is the HR people, it is the marketers, sales people are like this, accountants are always like this. So we have formed some judgmental mind. And finally is when we are trying to be selfish. That is the opposite of being considerate. So we are always looking at our needs. What is the need of me as the speaker rather than the needs of the other person? And with that, now I pause for questions, comment before we go to how we use IDA for persuasion writing. Now we'll go into persuasive writing. And we'll also look at some of the case studies that we have of people, whether they are poets, they are storytellers, they are actors, about how they use the persuasive writing to get to the audience or even the verbal. Any question before we go? And in this one, and when we go to rhetoric persuasion, we'll look at some of the great works of William Shakespeare. And I hope some of you have read his books to see that persuasive can go into even entertainment industry and the storytelling. And I'll make sure I'll leave you with a suspense so that you can make sure you go look for a book by Shakespeare for those who've not managed to go through it. So comments before we move now to Ida?
Rhoda, I would just like to make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
It is important that as we do persuasion,
Yes.
We understand that our audience are very attentive. So that because the moment you see that no attention is being given to your communication,
yes,
you understand that it is lost. So you really need to engineer and ensure that the attention is brought back and the content that you are delivering is to the point. Because sometimes attention may be lost because either the content of your delivery or probably the manner in which you are presenting the communication. And I like the way you have, in as much as we are not able to see your body language entirely, but the facial expression and the voice and the language has been so perfect. I think that is something that we need to demonstrate whenever we are delivering our communication. Thank you.
Thank you that for Joshua. Especially, now this we are in the COVID time and everybody is trying to align. When you go to the conference, the board people, the board tables in your workplaces, actually, when people may be just looking at your body language and they want to see, does she have a conviction? People might just buy your idea because you are so convicted on what you're saying and you believe, and they might decide, have you gone to the board and said, Rhoda, we are giving you the benefit of doubt. Demonstrate to us that you can do it. So we give it to you. So thank you, Joshua, for that point. You should be able, unfortunately, again, on my side, because we are all not on video and we are all on mute, I cannot tell who is multitasking, but of course, you've been very courteous enough to write in the comments that, Rhoda, I'm not able to speak, I'm multitasking, I'm not good at this. So that keeps me going when I see those comments. But you can imagine if we were able to see each other, we are able to interact in a room, someone could be doing exercise for us so that you get the attention of everyone. So that's a very powerful point. Daniel, today you are very quiet. Can we hear from you?
Good morning. May I come back later? I'm a bit multitasking, as I might say.
All right. Okay. We respect that. Thank you. Catherine Muthini, are you able to tell us something? Okay. Your hand is persisting. Do you want to tell us something? Mercy, Maurice, let's hear a comment, reactions. We agreed we are here to learn from each other. You want me to go home empty? I love learning from my audience and hearing what they have to say so that then as we are tailoring our training again, we'll also incorporate that. And that is also how we keep on developing and we keep on growing by doing. Any other comment or it's clear? Is it clear? Let me have a confirmation whether we can continue with Ida or there's something I need to elaborate.
We can continue.
We can continue.
It's clear, Rhoda, you can continue.
That's great. Lovely, lovely. So Ida, as the name suggests, is just an acronym for what I mentioned. I mentioned what Ida is when I was doing the introduction. Can I get someone who got what the acronyms for Ida means? I tried to elaborate when I was doing the demystifying the whole the course objective and the programs yesterday. What does IDA stand for? Anyone who can remember? And when you align it to the issue of persuasion? Anyone who can remember? I'll just remind us. We said IDA is just an acronym or a tool or a tactic for, it means attention. So when you're going to do persuasion, you really want to gather, gain, win the attention of the people. Once you win their attention, they have opened the door. It is like going to knock at someone's door. And they say that knock has persisted. Let's see who is at the door. So they have opened for you the door. So once you get their attention, then what happens? Yes, you have requested that I want to present a board paper. You've been accorded the opportunity. So the opportunity you have and you have the flow. What do you do with it? The first thing you should be able to do is to create interest. Probably you are coming to us for some salt. Or maybe you are going to a neighbor, you've knocked their house, there's something you need from them. How do you ensure that the door is not slammed on you immediately? You try to create an interest. Probably start by greeting, knowing them, how was your Christmas, all that. After you create the interest, now you start eliciting the desires for them to want to help you or to support you or to hear your point or to come to your side of the view. So that is the desire. And finally, what do you want them to do? You want them to act in a certain way. You want them to give you the salt. You want them to give you the kiberiti. You want them to change their attitude. You want to change their behavior. So it simply means attention, interest, desire, and action. That is what IDA is about. And then I want you to relate in terms of writing. So when you're doing a persuasive writing, we'll use a case study of a board paper. Is your board paper persuasive? Because why do we write board papers? We are requesting the board to approve something, probably a budget. So the first thing is, how do you grab their attention? Then how do you make them interested in your topic? Then now they start now dealing with their emotions, the desires. Of course, desires are emotional, is it? Not. They are more emotional than logical or rational. So they start now getting interest. There's something she's saying. The figures are showing this. When you attribute them, you want them to act. So you can imagine if they stop at the desire and they don't act, you don't succeed. If people don't change their attitude, they don't act, they don't behave in a certain way, they don't support you, then you'll not have succeeded. So even I'm sure we normally have board paper formats. If you don't have, please, you can look for some, or you can call your colleagues to share with you, that you can have one page a point. Beyond so many attachments you're having and the appendixes, the 1-2 page tells the story. So you have the introduction, you have the creating, what is the background, what is the essence of this paper, or what is then you go to the justification, then you create them the desire that if they do this, then you'll be able to do this and this, then you make your prayer at the end. As simple as that. So that is how we want to see how we use IDA in persuasive writing. And I think after IDA, now we'll go into the storytelling, and I want to hear a lot of stories from you and some of the leaders that you can think they have persuasive. Of course, we'll look at very interesting cases of even issues that are involving death and how people can come out of it and persuade. Beatrice have a comment. Kindly differentiate between interest and the desire in the context of IDA. So Beatrice, allow us to go through the 4 IDA, and then after that, then we can see if we differentiate the two. For me, interest is for people to be interested in listening to you and moving on with the discussion. Then the desire, it's the desire to change their attitude and the desire to act in a certain way. So the desire is more, it's more advanced than the interest, because I may be interested, but I have not moved to a higher emotional level of desiring to have something or wanting to have something. But let's look at it because I have explained in the slides. So how do we write persuasively? And we are saying every kind of writing is written with one purpose in mind. That one we talked about, and someone mentioned it about in our recap of the writer. The only purpose that we start writing, it is in the mind of the writer. We want to capture the reader's attention. The person you're going to persuade, that is the only purpose, whether we write storybook or how do we captivate them. So every kind of writing is written with only one purpose in mind. The purpose is the reader. The mind of the writer, to capture the reader's attention. Then we say, whether it is a report, a board paper, a presentation, an advert, an email, or any other form of writing, including love letters. Effective writing is the key to success. How do you write? What are the words? What is the choice of words? That is the key to effective success of that communication. Then, of course, I've explained what IDA means. It's a handy tool for ensuring that your copy, other writing grabs the attention and is persuasive. Then we say we use the IDA approach when you write a piece of text that has the ultimate objective of persuading or getting the other person to take the action. That is the ultimate purpose that we want. So in terms of each of them, we are going to look at each in detail, and we'll start with the attention. So what does attention mean? Attracting someone's, sorry, I've used the word attracting. Getting someone's attention is to attract them. Maybe by your appearance, how you present yourself, your dressing, your demeanor, how even your paper comes. Why do you normally put even our CVs? We want to put our portrait, we want to put colored, we want to print it on colored, we want to have a clear outline. It is that presentation. It's what I can call, what is the first impression? When someone just lands, the first 3 seconds, you already create an impression in your mind. So that is the attention. It's the attraction. So you grab people's attention by using powerful words or a picture that will catch the reader's attention or eyes and make them stop and read what you have to say next. So it is that first impression that you create. Then what is interest? Because now we can look at it clearly. Interest, sorry, is there someone who has a question? Or someone mic is on? So what is interest? Gaining the reader's interest is a deeper process than grabbing their attention. You may just like my looks, the way I appear, the way I'm dressed. But then, don't judge a book by its cover again, on both sides. Gaining the reader's interest is a deeper process than grabbing their attention. It helps your reader to pick out the messages that is relevant to them quickly, and by using bullets and subheading and breaking the text to make the point stand out. So you have already attracted their interest, their attention. So you want to interest them, what is they can see about your message. The way you could see, when we sent out this, the CPD point, I'm sure you saw the topic persuasion. You could have seen industrial relations, and you say, I think persuasion is more appealing to me. What is the content? What is the program like? So you get the interest. People are interested. But what about desire? The interest and the desire parts of IDA, they go hand in hand. So they are closely related, Beatrice. Simultaneously, to build the reader's interest, you also you have also to let him, sorry, you have to also tell him how your message can help them. The main way of doing this is by appealing to their personal needs and wants. Yes, now you are interested, but what is it? How can I use? It's like when you go to a shop and you see this beautiful thing and you start asking, and what is that? And someone tells you, it is a knife that you can use to chop. You normally see those ones that chop the cabbages and the carrots. So for you, you've just seen something that looks attractive. You don't even know what it's used. Then to get you the interest, they say you can use to do this and this. Then you start developing now the desire. Can I also use it to do this? Maybe peeling of the potatoes and do this. So you've taken your mind back to your own life. Practically, if I was to buy this, what else can I do with it? How can it be useful to me? How would it add value? Probably you don't need to keep on sharpening it. So that is how you create interest. Then the desire comes on. You're trying to see how this thing can help you resolve your issues and can add value to you. Is it clear, Beatrice? Can we differentiate now the two? The interest
yes,
and
it's
the desire.
Clear.
Great.
It's clear. Thank you
Then
very
we
much.
move to action. What is action? Of course, now I'm interested. Then I can see it can be useful in my house. I can do several activities with it. Then I need to action. How do you action? You buy it. Then you start asking, can I take it on credit? Probably I didn't have enough money. So to be very clear and specific about what action you want your readers to take. What is it that after we learn persuasion, we want to change our life? So give them specific information about the action to take rather than leaving them to figure it out what to do with themselves. So show them that they can practically apply this at personal level, at home level, in relationship with friends and the teams, and also at the professional level where you have to present yourself for interviews when you are interviewing even your people, because you want to be the employer of choice. when you attend interviews, when you are meeting your board to do your presentation, when you want to win your senior management, when you want to win your team at the departmental level. There is so many ways you can use persuasion. Let me see what is on the chart. Beatrice, it's okay. The difference is now clear. Any comment? Then we can go to the final aspect, which is the rhetoric of persuasion. I can see we are not time back. It's just some 2 minutes to 11, so we are doing very well. We can always pause for comments and questions. Then we go to the last leg. Any question, clarification, or we can proceed? Silence means we can proceed.
Yeah, sure.
Say proceed. That's Daniel. Yeah, that's okay. So let's proceed. I think everyone is agreeable. So we are now looking at rhetoric of persuasion. What is a rhetoric? What do you mean by rhetoric? What is rhetoric? Yes.
Rhetoric is more of a norm.
A norm.
Yes.
Is someone with the mic on? Okay, let me try to mute him. I can hear he's multitasking. Someone is consulting in his office, but that's cool. So someone has said rhetoric is a norm. Let's give it another guess. It's a norm. Any other? Rhetoric. Yeah, I think it's a norm. You are right about that. And we've also tried to give some definition in the context of also persuasion. And rhetoric is used a lot in leadership. For those people who have gone through leadership programs, there's for the ladies in the house, there's a program that is normally done by FKE. It's called Future Women. And in terms of training you on leadership and also personal self-awareness, personal reflection, they normally use a lot of rhetoric. And they see, in terms of rhetoric, what is it that you want to appeal to? Do you want to appeal to someone's mind? Is it their ethos? Or maybe their integrity, the things that they value so much? Is it to their emotions? So you tailor your communication in such a way that it will be pleasing to that person, the audience that you have researched and you don't know them very well. It will appeal to them and you are able to persuade them. And that is the main importance about knowing your audience, because you can see what is it that Rhoda holds so dear to, that if I have to do anything and I persuade something that will talk to issues of integrity, she'll be able to be pleased and she's likely to be persuaded because I'll be talking to her inner self. That is what drives her. That is what moves her. That is how we use rhetoric in terms of writing. You know what that person likes to hear, what pleases them. Even your boss, however difficult they are, maybe asking them about their dearest of their daughter, it is something that will make him stop and listen to you. What is it that you can touch the soft spot of these people and they'll stop to listen to you? So that's what we call the rhetoric. So rhetoric means using language effectively to please or persuade someone. You can understand that when speaking to an audience, then the main goal of the communication is to please or to persuade the audience. Some people are naturally good at rhetoric when others are not. Have you ever thought, like, when the advocate goes to court and the words they use as they address the judge? Have you ever thought why they do that? Of course, it's a norm, it's a ritual, it's etiquette of the court. If you actually read, because I'm sure all of us, we read the court judgments on employment matters, because that is the only way you can build your capacity in terms of the legislation and what is happening in the labor industry, the emerging issues, because a lot of precedents has been made in courts that you will not find them in the Employment Act or the labor laws. So you should. And you start now reading the way they do their pleas and their application. If it pleases the court, may I then, if it pleases you, my lord. That is the kind of rhetoric they normally use. And traditionally, I think the people in the traditional norms or the old people, if you read the old books and the poets and the stories, you'll see a lot of that rhetoric writing. And one person who came into our mind is the Shakespeare. And we'll see some of his work. You see how he was able to move the audiences, the map. The people like even the biggest leaders you've known, have they used rhetorics in addressing their people that people just are persuaded? So we look at some such examples of the work, and we see how now reading such materials can help us build a capacity in terms of building. So rhetoric of persuasion, we say the great Greek philosophers, Aristotle, proposed that there are 3 modes of rhetoric that a person can use for persuasion. And the 3 modes of rhetoric are the ethos, then we have the pathos, and we have the logos. I'm sure we have heard about those terms when we talk about the leadership. And we will look at each. What are ethos? What are the pathos? And what are the logos? So we'll start with the ethos. What does ethos mean? Ethos, the word ethos is a Greek origin, and it means the character. So you're trying to appeal and to appease someone's character and to build that trust. Ethos in rhetoric is a show of speaker's character and of credentials. How do people see you? Are you a credible person? Are you trustworthy? Are you a person of good character? Or you can even see how we look at our politicians. People with criminal corruption records, at times we have questions marks for them. But we, of course, at times we find ourselves voting for them. Yesterday we had an example that went wrong, but you could see it was short term, it didn't last, because the same aspects that people were questioning actually caught up with them. So hence, while using ethos in the rhetoric for persuading a person, the speaker demonstrates his own powers and authority. I'll come and say, you know, I'm a good person. Even by the time I'm trying to do the both, you know from my history for the many years I've worked for this institution, I've never let the management down. I don't think I've been any time negligent of my duties. I have built my own credibility and trust even among the leaders. So as much as they may not be so convinced, from how they know Rod has never been negligent, have never been careless, have been trustworthy, she has the heart of the institution at heart, they may just decide, let's give her the benefit of doubt. So that also comes in building the credibility, that even when you're talking to people, you tell them, you know, I'm a good person. I'm a person of character. I've been voted the best, maybe the 40 under 40, all that. So that's building to that credibility and authority. As per Aristotle, ethos is the most important attribute of any communication because you are trusted. You have a track record, and that is what ethos means. I hope it's clear. Then when it comes to pathos, what are pathos? The word pathos is also a Greek. They are all Greek words from philosophers, Greek origin, and it means the suffering or the experience. When you're able to talk to matters of the heart, you talk to the people that, oh, I'm so sorry. I've also gone through the same. I've also suffered. I'm a warrior into this. Someone is likely to listen to you. Let's say when even in a support group, when the person who has gone through what we are suffering, let's say we are in a group of people who are maybe people who are battling with cancer. And so if you go there and you tell them, I feel your pain. I'm a cancer warrior. I've passed through it. This is what, if you tell them, it is good that you observe your diet. This worked for me. You're likely to be heard. They're likely to stop. But if you just go there and you have read books and you're telling them, this is what the researchers are saying, who is likely to convince the other? Who is likely to persuade them? The person who is talking to their suffering, their experience, their heart. That is when you can see even politicians are appealing to people's experiences and the suffering. That is when you can see there is a talk and someone is using the narrative of bottom up, the wheelbarrow, that there is a kitty that will come for the people who are unemployed. There is a universal health, because that talked to the suffering and the experience of the people. And they can see this leader actually can feel us as Mama Mboga, can feel us as the people who are unemployed, can feel us as the people who are retired and the old. So such emotions that stirred in the audience are intended to move and motivate the audience to take the action. We'll see a case study for the Shakespeare. You should use pathos effectively to move people to act on your issue. You use matters of the heart. And a lot of religious leaders use pathos to reach to their flock. Then again, a continuation of the pathos. Pathos can prove to be one of the strongest appeal that you can make to your audience to take action. Use of narrative story is one of the easiest way of conveying a message using the pathos. Therefore, pathos impact both the emotional as well as the imagination of the audience. Is that clear? That is the pathos. Then let's look at the logos. Logos is what Kinuthia was talking about, appealing to the logic. The people, especially the experts who has the knowledge, you want to appeal to their logical and the rational thinking. So the word logos is of Greek origin and means the words of the reasoning of the person. Logos in rhetoric is an appeal made by a writer or a speaker to the readers or listeners in a logical listening, that this makes sense. The way they reason, they can be able to see how one thing leads to the other or relate rationally or in a reasoning manner. This is normally very good when you're dealing with people who are really experienced, the expert, maybe the people in the academic industry. Of course, the logic follows, or even the learned friends, the lawyering normally rely so much on the large. Of course, they combine both because there is the pathos of the credibility of the person. He's a first-time offender and all that. So you can combine all of them. You can use logos to add credibility to your argument when you build your argument using basic building blocks of common sense. So when I said I'm a HR practitioner, I'm a consultant, of course, it's the reasoning and the logic why I have maybe probably to facilitate because I'm in that field. Any question about differentiating the three, the ethos, the pathos, and the logos? I'm sure they're not new terms, but you can see the way we can use them in terms of the persuasion. Any question? Now, before we go to a case study that I talked about. Any question, clarification, or we can proceed?
The silence suggests the same.
Good. So we proceed. Let's go now to the artistic work. We said persuasion is an art and it's a science. We have seen the science, the way the figures normally comes in the statistical. But what about the art? Art could be theatrics. Let's see how some of the players or entertainers have dealt with this. So this is ethos. So the word ethos is of the Greek origin, means the character. Ethos is rhetoric in a show of speakers' character and also the credentials. This is actually leading us to the work of the Shakespeare. And as per Aristotle, ethos is the most important attribute to any communication. We have said this. While using ethos in rhetoric for persuasion, for persuading a person, the speaker demonstrates his own power and also the authority. And then for ethos is just a repetition. So a speaker using ethos has to create a sense of credibility, trustworthiness for himself in the mind of the audience. And only when the audience can trust and believe in the writer or the speaker's character, only then they can be persuaded by the writer or the speaker. And the logos, just to clarify, I want to mute someone. I think they're quick to mute themselves. Thank you for that. It talks about reasoning. It's in rhetoric. It's an appeal made by a writer or a speaker to the readers or listeners' logical thinking. So that is just the common understanding that we have. So let us now understand how ethos, logos, and also pathos can be used for persuasion through the study of a classic piece of English literature by William Shakespeare. So you'll allow me to read. I don't know how many of us have read the works of William Shakespeare. The people who've been around for some time, where this literature was the real literature, or they like philosophers. How many of us? And have heard the case of the assassination of Caesar? Anyone from the participants who has read the work of Shakespeare? And why should you read them? And maybe the skits and the plays about the assassination of Caesar, what happened? Anyone? The people who've been around when those books were the real books. All right, so I'll take you through, and you actually for me it's just to elicit the desire for you to be artistic, to read, and to actually even see how such literatures can be useful for our leadership and persuasion. So you must have heard of classic play. Probably you've not heard about the Julius Caesar. So I'll take you slowly because this is the last of our slides. So that, but then you'll also have to go and read. It's not so much you can Google, you can go read. So Julius Caesar was one of the greatest classic of English literature and one of the greatest works of the Williams Shakespeare, as we will see. That's him. And Julius Caesar is a play about the protagonist named Julius Caesar. We've heard about him. Probably we don't know he was one of the leaders. He's one of the most acclaimed and honored, loved leaders of the ancient Rome. As you can see, the pictorials in the play that were used in the skit. And the play describes the assassination of Julius Caesar for his growing ambitions. Some of the high-ranking people of the Rome, including Caesar's best friend, who was called Brutus, believed that Caesar's growing ambition are turning him into a tyrant. So he was someone who was so ambitious, but people were afraid. Maybe his distractors or his enemies, including his friends like the Brutus. And why we are bringing about the Brutus is because he's the one who gave a moving, persuasive speech about why they had to kill Julius Caesar. So the fear that if Caesar is allowed to grow further and become king, he will become a dictator of Rome, who will be all powerful, and they reduce the whole of Rome and its people into slaves. That was the biggest fear they had, including the senator in the same government they were serving. So some of the people, including Brutus himself, conspired together and to plot for his assassination. So Caesar is stabbed 23 times by the conspirators, including Brutus in the Senate. We have had this political assassination, include his closest friend. He was stabbed 23 times. After Caesar's assassination, the citizens of Rome gather near his dead body in the forum, grieving all their loss. All of them angrily demand a justification for this hideous crime because he was one of their favorite leaders. Let us carefully study a speech of Brutus that Brutus makes after Caesar's assassination to the citizens of Rome. Observe how he uses the ethos, the logos in rhetoric to justify the assassination. So Marcus Brutus' funeral speech in tragedy, it's called The Tragedy of the Julius Caesar, that you can Google that, is successful because of his persuasive techniques. And these effective techniques were included what I've summarized into about 4. Brutus, in addressing the audience during the funeral, personally, therefore, getting their attention. He actually personalized himself, that I'm here as Brutus. I'm also a citizen of Rome. I love my country. He kept on using I. If you could just allow me to get, maybe just to just minimize this, and maybe just take you just very shortly on could read for you what his words, actual words that he used. And you could be moved by how. So the things he said, he used a lot of I, and personalized even the death, saying, he is my personal friend. I am in Rome, so that people are able to see they are similar to them. Even him, he's still mourning the death of his friend. And he really personalized him, that he was very close and he loved him than even the entire Rome loved his friend. But he had to make the decision, exclaiming over and over again that he did love Caesar very much. Those are the things he said. He also explained, he did this by explaining to the people of Rome the reason for Caesar's death. He said that we had to kill him because if he actually continued and to become a leader of Rome, he could have made all of us slaves, and we could have had a lot of suffering in his leadership, So it was better for him as one person to die than the entire of Rome and its citizens to suffer in terms of slavery. So he really justified that. And he actually said that even him, if he was to grow such ambition to a level that he'll become like his friend, let the same sword also take his life. He actually gave his life and said, if he was to become like his friend, he should also be killed by the Roman people, just like the way they have killed his friend. And lastly, he ended his speech by very strongly and very effective. And allow me just before, that is the end of that, I wanted to actually read to you just part of that speech that he made, so that you can hear what I'm saying. It is, and I want you to go and read even past this, because it's a very good write-up. It's not so long, but allow me to just read his speech for you. Maybe just in summary, what he said, Marcus at the speech, he said, here comes, listen to how he personalized it, how he justified it, and how he closed his speech. And he said, here comes his body. This is the body of Caesar, mourned by Mark Antony, someone who had given a speech before him, who, though he had no hand in his death, this is someone who had a contrary opinion, because Antony didn't have a hand in the death of Caesar, but he gave the speech and tried to say, we should get to the bottom of this matter, how an innocent person should die. Then the person who was directly involved in his murder comes in and gives his speech. And this is now Marcus, who is Brutus. He said, here comes his body, mourned by Mark Antony, who, though he had no hand in his death, shall receive the benefit of his dying, a place in the commonwealth, as which of you shall not? With this I depart, that I slew my friend, lover of good of for the good of Rome. You see, he's admitting that he slew my best lover for the good of Rome. I have the same dagger for myself. When it shall please my country, need my death. Mark Brutus' funeral speech in the tragedy of Julius was very impacting on the people of Rome. He made his speech successful, persuasive, by using tactful techniques with the win of the crowd's approval. He got their attention by addressing them. He actually used the words such as, be patient till the last, Roman. Countrymen, lovers, hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. Those are the words he was using to persuade them. He continued to say, if there be any in this assembly where we are gathered, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus, now himself, love to Caesar was no less than his. You can see the way he's personalizing. As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was a valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. There is tears for his love, joy for his ambition. Then he said, had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves? That had you rather the Caesar were living and die all slaves than the Caesar were dead to live all free men? Then again he said, not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more than I loved my friend. And then he concluded by saying, with this I depart, that I slew my best lover for the good of Rome. I have the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to need my death. And lastly, he said, now after he gave that speech, the whole audience at the funeral of Caesar actually started chanting and said, live, Brutus, live with your ancestors. Let him be Caesar's for his ambition. And that is the story about the tragedy of Julius Caesar. What do we learn from that story? What do we, Rose says, very clear explanation. Rhoda, it is excellent. Have we learned anything from it? Have we learned anything from it? We have learned, the way he was able to appeal to the ethos of the people, the way he was able to raise his character, saying, I'm a good person. I've been doing this. You have known me. He's my lover. He's my friend. He's a countryman. I'm also a countryman. But would you rather that this leader would have lived, and for all of us as Rome, we die because of his ambition? And that brings us to the end of the course. So I want you to go and read the stories. Some of the things are just extracts of the story. And you can see it's very interesting in how he's able to persuade. Even when we think there is no hope, there is death, someone can broadly come with a lot of authority, face the masses in a funeral and give a morning a speech that people are able to be moved to his way of thinking and even justify the death of the Caesar who was to become a tyranny. And with that, I think I'll take any questions, any comment. I see it is 11:25. We are well ahead of time, and I believe we've covered everything that we wanted to deal with in terms of effective persuasion communication. So that's all from me. That's what I had prepared for you. But go and read that story. Look for those stories, and you'll be able now to actually attribute it and bring it home to how persuasion is done. So let's Q&A. Any question before we call it a day? And we'll be done with our 2-day session, and you'll have earned your CPD points. Let me hear from you. That's all from me. I think I rest my case now. Comments, chat, excellent presentation, well done. That's from Gabriel. Faith brought about the holistic use of rhetoric, persuasion. Terry, good. Daniel, yes, I read the book, but never understood it as I have just done. Thank you. Please try to, Gabriel, your hand is up. Kindly tell us something, comments, anything, even feedback to the academy, what we should do differently, what other trainings we should prepare for the people. Let's hear. Gabriel?
Rhoda, I have a comment. Oh, sorry.
Yes, kindly take the floor.
Okay, Rhoda, I am pleased with this topic for the last 2 days that we have been going through it. I think for some of us who have had an opportunity to litigate on the platform of HR, having done submissions, having argued the same submissions against practicing lawyers, and on several occasions have been successful, persuasion has been very, very key. Because what I realize, if you go to court and you litigate, and an employee who has been dismissed has actually sued the organization, the judge is on the platform that the employee has been subdued because this is a lower person dealing with a giant, which is the organization. So the extent to which we are able to persuade the judges based on clear points, based on clarity, based on seeking the attention to be heard, what our submissions are all about, against tyrant lawyers who will use all those kind of jargons, who always look upon us as HR practitioners that we do not understand what we do,
Mhm.
that probably having got a skewed information from the employee who has been dismissed, so we
Yes.
have been taken to be wrong. But when
Yes.
you have good skills, if you have good communication
Mhm.
and good persuasion to the judges,
Yes.
it has been very successful for me
Mm.
over the many years that I've been working as a HR practitioner.
Mm.
So for me, I say that having gone through, and I was so much interested with this topic,
Mhm.
there could not have been a better one
Mm.
than this one.
Mm.
And I really like the delivery.
Mhm.
I think I go home much more enriched than I was before.
Mm.
And I now think that, as I said during the introduction time yesterday, that this is to sharpen our skills.
Mm.
I believe I'm much sharper than I was yesterday.
Mm.
And I look to confronting my issues
Mhm.
in a much more successful, with a
Mhm.
lot of power, with a
Mhm.
lot of conviction,
Mm.
that everything that I execute will be
Mm.
properly done. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Joshua. That is very deep. And I feel you because I also deal with a lot of union issues. And that is what happens in the workplaces, especially for us in HR. People want to use jargon, especially the lawyers. And if you are to go to the directors with even who knows HR better than the HR, it's not the lawyers. You have all this experience. But just because they feel you are not a lawyer, they still ask for the legal opinion, but the legal opinion, the lawyer will still come back and say, what rather do you have to say about this? What does your HR policy say that? We are the crafters and the drafters of these policies, so we know it better. So once we do our research properly, understand, you can give a more persuasive write-up than even that other advocate who is bringing up issues. And I also picked up, if you ever struggle with issues of industrial relations and labor, always read judgment. Give yourself an appointment of every week. I'll download from the Kenya Law Report a judgment on employment matters. They are very easy to read. Just the way you can see the work of William Shakespeare, we hear like their movies. It is very easy. Bring it close home. Read it. You'll become so. I can tell you, I started doing that and I could read, and to me it became like reading a novel. There's nothing that I love reading like the judgment. It even pushed me to a point that I wanted to go back. Now I become a lawyer. And I said, with all the experience that I have, why would I have a startup advocate who has never done HR coming to decide matters for us because of a mere misunderstanding? So ensure you can do that. Let's not fear. Read, research, understand your audience. Pick it like a conversation, the way Joshua has said, and it will empower you. That is very good comment. And any other? Thank you, Joshua. And I hope we have met the expectations that we had. I can see, if you look at your chart, you can kindly log in. Dan has posted, you log into the website of ichrp.org so that you can enroll for this course. The notes are there in the portal. All the presentations that I've done, you'll find them on the portal, and also the printing of your certificate, and you'll be able to earn your CPD points. So, and in any case, if anything is not clear about downloading your certificates and access of the portal, you can always call the Academy for the feedback. Am I closing anybody? I'm not seeing anything on the chat. So for me, it's a big, big thank you. I've really enjoyed interacting with you. It has been very interactive class. We've learned from each other. We've shared a lot of experience and the wealth from all of you. And for me, it has been an awesome and a good close for the year for me. And let's keep the fire burning. Let's keep on reading. Let's keep on sharing and there are many, many courses. We always offer these programs on a monthly basis. You'll not miss 4 days of the CPD where you get your 2 points. Again, after this, from tomorrow, we are beginning the topic of effective negotiation skills. Again, for the 2 days, you'll be able to earn your 2 CPD points, and cumulatively, you'll be able to have your 4 CPD points. They are very cheap and affordable courses. And for what we do at the Academy, we actually train, because that's our specialization. So thank you. I've seen all your kind comments. Great delivery, Rhoda. Thank you from Terry. Ivy, thank you for the session. I've really enjoyed. Pauline, thank you. I wish you an awesome afternoon. And that is all from me. Dan, do you have any comments as we wrap up? Dan is our founder for the Academy. if he has just a comment to the participants before now we can close the class. Thank you, guys, and I wish you all the best. As you go into the new year, I wish you a new prosperous year, and may all the God blessings follow you. And the people who are still feeling unwell, we'll continue praying for you beyond this, and we wish you a quick recovery. That's all from me. Asanteni sana. Then, do you want to give a word as we close?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Lorda. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for participating. Yeah, thank you for participating in today's event. I've been following through. The training has been, this is not what I thought persuasion skills would come out. I have realized these are some of the soft skills that we as HR professionals really deserve to have on our fingertips. Now, I don't want to say much as we move towards the holidays. I want to wish each and every one of you very happy holidays. And I anticipate that 2022 will be a prosperous new year for all of you. Now, I've shared some text there that if you've not done so already, log into our website, achlp.org. Then you land on a menu entitled Take Courses. Select this particular course. If you had paid 4,000, select the 2 courses. This is persuasion, effective persuasion skills, and successful negotiation skills. Select both of them. Let me share how that website works very briefly. That is our website, and this is where we input the achlp.org. So anytime you go to our website, that is the first page, that is the home page. It has a client area where you input your email address. For instance, let me input mine. And you're already an existing client if you've been taking our courses in the past. So no need to create a new account. So you just put in your email and password, then log in. No. Wow. I hope you understand these are festive seasons, and I have a baby who is very active. So we'll go to Take Courses. That is the first page, landing page after you log in. And every now and then you'll find that we improve our website. Maybe those who had logged in a few months ago or 1 month ago, this is not how it used to be. We try to make this website because this is a system, not the normal website. We try to make this website as user-friendly as possible, so that we would be able to retain you. Now, look at this. When you have the landing page after you log in, you'll select the course. Unfortunately, I've taken all the courses. And for that reason, I have no course that I'm able to select, but the first column indicates that's where you select the course. You click inside that box. That's what we would say you have selected the course. Then the amount would appear here, where you can see the 00s. This is a payment module at the top. the amount will appear there. The M-Pesa pay bill is there, account number. And assuming you've already paid, you'll enter you'll enter the M-Pesa transaction code at the space indicating or that has a red outline. You enter that M-Pesa code, not the entire M-Pesa text, just that M-Pesa code. It has 10 digits. Then click submit. And this system is intelligent enough. One is not able to input an M-Pesa code that has already been used before. Then click submit. Once you click submit, the website will take you to the next menu, which is my courses. That would be my courses. You will find, for those who've already registered or enrolled for these two courses, that will be HR course number 170 and 181. You will find that both the certificates are pending. The certificate for today's course will be available after 4 p.m. There is a reason for that. Sometimes it would not be good to have the certificate ready even before the training has concluded. Then you will have the, so you will be having two things here. You will be having actually 3 columns. One of them is the presentation column, the receipt column, and the certificate column. Right now, 5 minutes, I'll be out there. Yes. Now, we'll be having 2 columns. That is, I already said that. The presentation, receipt, and the certificate column. The certificate column is pending, but you are able to view these notes, the presentations for this particular course. I remember somebody has asked along kwa chats, one is Nazisoma. I usually go through them one by one. Somebody was asking, that is Muasa, can we have the presentations? Yes, you can have them because they are in your portal. Now, let's see for effective persuasion skills. If I click kwa column ya presentation, I click view. Then what will happen is this, the presentation, you'll have now such a, that page will open. And if you can read these words there, they show loading document. So the presentation is powering. It should open in a few. Depending on how heavy the PowerPoint is, it might take just enough time for you to be able.
Sorry, we seem to have lost Dan. Or is it me alone?
No, we have lost him.
We have lost him, and oh, he's back. He's back. Dan is back. Dan, continue. We lost you for a bit. He's still in the meeting. Just the video. Dan, are you still there? Yeah, I can see him. Dan, we've lost you. We seem to have lost him, eh?
Yes, you can only see darkness. We pray that he comes back soon.
Yeah, so that you're able to get all that. And actually, he's the host, so he's also the one who will end the meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry, you lost me?
Yeah, we lost you. Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess the internet where I am, they pride themselves as having the best internet, but I guess I'll put in my feedback. So I was sharing my screen. I'll go back to that. And there we were. So I had already said that the presentation, you're able to open the presentation from inside your learning management system, and you can go through the pages by clicking next page, next page, next page. In a few minutes, I wrote remember, we were recording the presentation. So before the end of the day, you'll be able to view the videos or the recordings for this particular presentation, the 2 days presentation, the entire presentation. And as long as you have enrolled in the system, you'll always have your notes present at all times. You'll always have your notes. You'll always be able to listen to the PowerPoint to the recordings. You'll always be able to access your certificate. We do, and we invest a lot and heavily in having this infrastructure, the internet, that is the learning management system, up and running all the time. If you have any challenges, don't hesitate to talk to me. I'm always available 24/7. Of course, unless I fall asleep. So most of the times you can be able to talk to reach me. I'll share my number there, although most of us have that number, 0722 300 245. There. And my name is Ben, not Ben. And I'm a friendly person, so don't worry, talk to me. Now, one other thing. The other reason we created this system, sometimes you find that someone is missing a few points. And we created this system to have a situation whereby one is able to access courses throughout the year. Reason, this is adult learning. If you look at our training calendar, these are the courses we've had throughout the year. This one. We've had so many courses, you'll be shocked. And for some reason, you are not able to participate in any one of them. So when you log into your system, look at the courses that happened in 2021, select as I've shown you, make your payment. I'll have the notes and the recordings available for you, including